Time for everything. There you go, we're live.
Hi everyone, how are we doing?
Just gonna wait for people to drop in.
What's the time there where you are, Paul?
The questions like that shouldn't be asked.
You don't look like you've had too much coffee yet.
If I was in your time zone, we could do happy hour, right?
If you were in my time zone, it wouldn't matter what time it was, it would be happy hour.
In
my time zone, every hour is happy hour.
I don't know, in the UK, is it happy or unhappy hour? I'm not really sure.
I said my time zone, not my country.
All right. Let's be giving people long enough, do you think? Stick around for a bit?
I don't know.
A minute.
As soon as someone said make small talk, I just couldn't think of anything to say.
Yeah.
So. How's it going? How is everyone? We should do some large talk instead.
Well, let's get started. So I'm just shh. Okay. I knew I was going to have to shush you at some point. All right. So thank you for joining us today. My name's Helen Scott, and I'm a Java developer advocate at JetBrains. I've signed up for Hacktoberfest for the first time this year, so this is all pretty new to me and quite exciting. Fortunately for me, I am joined today by 3 of my colleagues. So I'm going to do a quick round robin, but they'll get a chance to introduce themselves properly later. So first up, we have Phil Nash. He's a developer advocate for our C++ tools. Not waving today, Phil. Next, we have Paul Everett, who predominantly works on our PyCharm and WebStorm products. Nice wave. And lastly, we have Trisha G, who is our lead Java developer advocate. You had to upstage everyone, didn't you? All right. Thanks for joining us today. We're really happy to be here. The reason that we're here is on October the 22nd, we're going to be chatting to this panel about how you can get started in the world of open source for both fun and profit. So you can register for that by clicking the link in the description. We don't have a lot of time today, but in the time that we do have, my fellow advocates are going to give you just a little taster of what you can expect from that session as we get started with Hacktoberfest, which of course is DigitalOcean's month-long celebration of open source. I have to say that. Make sure you sign up for that as well. Again, link is in the description. So with that, let's jump into the discussion. And Paul, I'm going to pick on you first. What are you going to be talking to our audience about on the 22nd with regards to getting into open source for fun and profit?
That's good. Thanks, Helen. Want to start an open source career? Want to maybe start an open source business? I'll be talking a little bit about the intersection between open source and small business based on experiences I had once upon a time. I keep thinking I'll write a book, maybe be in a movie, but then I think about who would play me, and that's a horrific thought. So we'll cancel all of that. I'll talk a little bit about the evolution from a 2-person partnership to 3 rounds of venture capital, specifically exit plan, value proposition, going the VC route, and trying to be on the good side.
Nice. Looking forward to hearing about that. Cheers, Paul. All right. Phil, how about you? What stories are you going to be sharing in a couple of weeks?
Thanks, Helen. Yeah, so, my journey starts with me basically just scratching my own itch, trying out a few ideas. This was long before I joined JetBrains. I ended up building a C++ unit test framework that now, today, is seeing over 6,000 downloads a day and is second only to Google Test. So I'm quite pleased with how that's turned out. So what I'm going to do is share some of the things that I did to make that happen, at least as far as I've been able to reconstruct after the event, and how I actually fit all that in with an already busy life, both at work and at home. And along the way, I'm going to tell a few stories, including what does unit testing have to do with cancer research and missiles, what to do if your project is not very Googleable, and you can see why that might be a problem. And also, just to fit in with our overall theme, how to profit while also having fun.
Can't wait for that. That sounds great, Phil. Thanks very much. All right. Lastly, Trisha, what will you be sharing from your experience on October the 22nd in the panel?
So I have two main sort of channels for my experience in open source. One was I worked for a financial exchange in London who open sourced a really key part of their platform. Now, financial exchanges, particularly in London, not really well known for transparency, particularly in the tech world, because their technology is usually a competitive advantage for them. So this was a really interesting and potentially dangerous thing for them to do to get into the open source world. So I want to tell stories about why they open sourced this tool. It was a very fast message passing framework called the Disruptor in Java. And I want to talk about why they did that and what benefits the organization saw, and also how that helped me personally. I did not contribute to that, but this open source product really helped launch sort of my career as a developer advocate, which is quite interesting to me, obviously. And then the second thing is, which was my next job after this, was I worked for MongoDB. So I have a bunch of stories around what it's like to work for an organization that embraces open source, basically puts money and resources into open source and utilizes open source for its own business practices. And what are the benefits there? So again, a certain amount of like, how do you profit off it? And how does that, how does giving back to the community, the technical community, help you as an organization? And this is where I first started actually contributing to open source and putting code into GitHub, creating pull requests, and doing all of that kind of thing.
That's fantastic, Trisha. Thank you. All right. If anyone has any questions on any of that, please feel free to put them in the comments and we'll take a look. You've had a snapshot now of what we're going to be talking about on the 22nd. There are definitely some interesting topics there that I certainly want to learn more about. So please also start thinking of any questions. If you can't think of them today, that's fine. Just think of them over the next couple of weeks. Sign up for the panel. Again, it's in the description. And on the 22nd of October, we will find out if they solved their problems. And more importantly, maybe, did they make any money doing it?
No, more importantly, did we have any fun?
Did you have any fun? Oh, very good point. So Hacktoberfest is here. Start prepping your repositories, setting up your events, and get your open source community talking. All right. I don't think we have any questions come in. I'll expect lots on the 22nd. All right. Go on, Trish.
No, I just had a comment. I particularly liked Phil's. I was quite pleased with that British way of saying something about and an awesome achievement he did with open source. Yeah, I was quite pleased. It was all right.
We have just had a question, which I'm gonna give you it to all of you, but you can only say one thing. So, what are your tips for a beginner in open source? So let's start with Phil.
Just get started. I think just start small and embrace the community.
Thank you. Trisha?
I don't know. This is a whole talk, isn't it?
I know, that's why I had to limit you to one.
Yes, I'm surprised you put me second because I'm going to take away from Paul's time. Tips for getting started. Don't be afraid. Ask for help. Ask maintainers for help as well, and try and find guidance. And the open source community is a big community, so you can probably find space which is going to be the right slot for you.
Awesome. That was at least 5. Thank you.
Sorry.
Lastly, Paul.
I'll say hi to Moses from Nigeria and Yasser from Pakistan. Nice for them to pop in. I'll say, obviously, use Python. Duh. But join a project. Every project needs a lot of just the basics. Writing documentation, fielding an avalanche of tickets, and doing triage and things like that. And you can be so helpful just on basic stuff and get such a great feeling of belonging to a tribe just by joining people who will value you no matter where you live.
Awesome. Thank you. We have had another question in terms of how to make money contributing to open source. I think that's definitely one for the 22nd of October. Oh, yeah. That's something certainly I'm looking forward to hearing more about. And we've had one more question around languages. Is it better to get better at one language or many? I assume with regards to open source contribution. Paul, you may have just answered that question.
I'll take both.
Well, yes, I was going to say it depends. Of course, it depends. That's the senior developer answer to everything. It depends. What works for you, basically.
Yep. Fair enough. And one more question from a DevOps engineer. How can they contribute to open source, I presume, as a DevOps engineer? Has anyone got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, very welcome. You don't have to be a developer.
Yeah.
The developers are, I mean, obviously DevOps is a big movement, so developers have moved more into the ops world lately, but people who understand ops and integrations and deployment, extremely important. I can't give the how right now, but I can say you're very welcome.
Brilliant.
In
All right,
particular, releasing software these days generally means things continuous integration, and especially the ride with GitHub Actions that will test your software on every push. It'll build it. It'll publish it to package repositories. And that stuff sucks. And the developers don't want to do that because you're learning an infinity of stuff that changes fractally. And so you can be extremely valuable to a project if you've got those skills.
Awesome. Thank you. Right. We are nearly out of time, so I'm going to make this the last question. Is it important to learn Golang in the DevOps field, in your opinion?
Oh, no, none of us are Golang people. We don't care.
There you go. Brilliant.
No, can I give another answer? At MongoDB, we started using Golang for a bunch of like scripting and ops type stuff, and the people at MongoDB were very happy with it. It's not a mandatory skill, but it can be helpful.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, I think we will leave it there. Again, October the 22nd. Let's find out if they solved their problems, had fun, and made money. And thank you very much for the questions and for tuning in.